If everyone has access to you, you have no power. You're not respected, you're consumed. Machiavelli, the man who taught princes how to rule without mercy, made it clear, what is common is trash, what is rare becomes untouchable. In this video you'll learn Machiavelli's hidden formula for turning scarcity into real power, and the final lesson at the end will show you how to make people chase you without even asking. The more you hide, the more they invent, and fantasies always cut deeper than facts. Rarity isn't weakness, it's leverage. Hold back access and you spark desire. Step away and they pursue. Control when you appear, and even your silence becomes a weapon. Stop chasing approval. Stop being easy to reach. Machiavelli's rule is brutal but simple: show yourself less, demand more, and you'll be treated like a prize, not a pawn. Constant availability makes you disposable. Scarcity makes you untouchable. That's when people begin to fear losing you. Scarcity doesn't just defend value, it creates aura, an unseen pressure that bends behavior. They second-guess your silence, overanalyze every move, and treat your presence like a rare event. Machiavelli watched it in Renaissance courts. Rulers who appeared sparingly became the center of every whisper, every plot. They barely acted, distance did the work. You can build the same aura today. Discipline is the key. Never justify absence, never explain silence. Let people wonder. Let them compete. Uncertainty forces them to earn your favor. But remember, illusion alone is fragile. Scarcity without strength collapses. Scarcity backed by power becomes legend. Balance is everything, present enough to remind, rare enough to be craved. Approachable to avoid hatred, distant to avoid contempt. In that tension lies real authority. Those who master it don't just hold power, they radiate it. Absence becomes presence. Silence becomes dominance. Power that feels unreachable becomes sacred. Untouchable. Dangerous to challenge. This is the Machiavellian art of scarcity. Done correctly, it elevates you beyond respect, into fear, into necessity. People rarely measure value for what it is, they measure it by difficulty of access. Machiavelli understood this flaw in human nature and forged it into a weapon. His lesson was blunt: what is easily gained is lightly esteemed. If you want to raise your worth, you must limit yourself. Why is gold worshipped? Not because of its immediate usefulness, most of its applications were discovered much later, but because it is rare. The same applies to people. Be constantly available and your worth collapses. Restrict yourself, ration your presence like a sovereign who opens his gates only for the chosen, and suddenly you appear priceless. Scarcity creates pressure. When you cannot be reached on demand, people obsess. They speculate about your actions, your meetings, your hidden plans. Their imagination magnifies your influence. The less they know, the more they assume. A ruler who shields his movements seems omnipotent. A man who withholds replies appears busy, essential, untouchable. Modern culture preaches the opposite: be connected, responsive, always accessible. But endless availability kills power. Predictability is death to authority. When people map your every step, they stop fearing you. They stop valuing you. You become ordinary, like water flowing through open streets, useful, but common. Machiavelli studied rulers who mastered absence. Princes who vanished from court for weeks left nobles uneasy. Tyrants who delayed decisions made subjects beg for judgment. Leaders who rationed access made every audience a coveted privilege. Even those who despised them dreaded exclusion. Scarcity breeds desire, but more than that, it breeds dependence. Look around, the coworker always free for lunch is overlooked. The friend who never refuses is taken for granted. The lover who's always available loses allure. Human nature is brutal. We dismiss what comes too easily, and worship what resists. This is the psychology of scarcity. People chase what withdraws and ignore what approaches. Overshare, and you become forgettable. Restrict, and they stay awake at night, trying to decode you. Machiavelli's first command is merciless. To project power, you must control access. Not vanish, but appear on your own terms, like a king who steps into the throne room only when he chooses. Servants answer instantly. Masters make others wait. Scarcity is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is strategy. Controlled silence forces others to make the first move. When you do appear, every word carries disproportionate weight. When you act, each gesture feels deliberate. This is how leaders, warriors, and cunning men across history have built larger-than-life reputations, not by being everywhere, but by refusing to be common. Scarcity is never a coincidence. It is a calculated weapon, one that must be wielded with intent. Machiavelli's genius was in transforming human flaws into strategy. He saw that people instinctively prize what is rare, so power belongs to the one who guards his presence as carefully as a miser guards his treasure. This is not about hiding. It is about appearing only on your own terms, so that each appearance lands with force. Here is Machiavelli's method of turning scarcity into strength. Step 1. Withdraw with purpose. Stop scattering yourself across every crowd. Refuse to be endlessly visible or permanently accessible. Do not attend every gathering, do not answer every call, do not jump at every demand. With distance comes curiosity. Your silence compels others to imagine your movements, your alliances, and your reasons for no longer seeking them. That uncertainty becomes influence. Step 2. Control access. A sovereign does not keep his gates open to all. Neither should you. Choose deliberately who earns entry into your time and space, and signal, without a single word, that your attention is never free. When people sense limits, they treat proximity as a prize. They approach with caution, with reverence, even with unease, because they know you can deny them at will. Step 3. Appear selectively and intentionally. Re-emerge at times that serve your advantage. Your presence should feel deliberate, never casual. If you remain scarce, even the smallest act, a word, a meeting, a gesture, gains the weight of a decree. People listen with sharpened attention because they know opportunities to hear you are rare. Step 4. Turn absence into intrigue, not neglect. Scarcity does not mean disappearing forever. Vanish too long and memory fades. The art lies in giving just enough to keep attention alive, but never enough to satisfy it. Leave them restless. Keep them guessing. When they miss you, they attach greater value. When they wonder about you, they grant you more respect. Step 5. Use scarcity to shape perception. By rationing how much of yourself you allow others to see, you decide what image survives. Constant presence reveals flaws, limited presence hides them. If you appear sparingly, you project only what you choose, confidence, command, even danger, and people accept it, because they lack evidence to challenge it. Machiavelli witnessed this dynamic in Renaissance courts. Rulers made themselves elusive, surfacing only to issue decisions and always on their own terms. Ambassadors and nobles waited endlessly for the privilege of an audience. That delay alone asserted dominance. You see me when I allow it, not before. The same tactic applies today. In business, you become the figure whose time cannot be wasted. In relationships, you become the one pursued, not the one chasing. In every sphere, let your absence speak more loudly than your presence. Scarcity bends the balance of power because it forces others to adjust to you, your timing, your priorities, your rules. They must compete for your attention, rather than you competing for theirs. And when you finally grant it, your presence feels monumental, because you have trained them to believe it is. Machiavelli's method is merciless in its simplicity. Show yourself less, expect more, make them wait, keep them guessing, force them to earn their place. Apply this relentlessly and your value in the eyes of others will rise beyond measure. Scarcity by itself makes you precious, but if you want that perceived value to turn into true authority, you must convert it into movement toward you. Power does not run after anyone. It pulls them in. Machiavelli observed that a prince who chases his subjects surrenders his dignity. But the ruler who compels his subjects to chase him is sovereign not only in title, but in reality. So how do you draw others to pursue you, sometimes even with desperation? First, wield delay as a weapon. When people ask for your time, don't hand it over instantly. Make them wait. Delay doesn't sap your strength, it erodes theirs. Forced to linger, they start to fear they've lost your favor. That doubt eats at them, pushing them to pursue you harder, if only to restore their standing. Second, master controlled unpredictability. Predictability is the enemy of power. When people know exactly when you'll respond, how you'll behave, what you'll say, you become unremarkable. But when you remain just beyond their grasp, sometimes available, sometimes silent, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, they stay alert. Controlled unpredictability keeps them uneasy, worried about losing your approval, anxious not to offend. Third, reward with precision. When you finally grant attention, let it feel like something earned. Recognize the ones who showed patience or proved useful. If everyone receives equal favor, your approval becomes worthless. If only a few are rewarded, the rest struggle for recognition, competing for the chance to be next. Fourth, turn silence into appetite. You do not owe constant responses. You do not owe explanations. Words withheld often strike deeper than words spoken. When you remain silent, people fill the void with their own fears, hopes, and interpretations. They wonder what you think, what you might do, and they chase after reassurance, desperate to know they have not provoked your anger. Fifth, make every appearance count. If you have been absent, your return carries weight. Do not waste it on trivialities. Speak with finality. Act with intent. People will enlarge the significance of every word because they hear you so rarely. When you grant your attention, let it feel deliberate, almost like a gift. This makes your presence addictive. Machiavelli knew that human beings are shackled by uncertainty. When unsure of their standing with you, they lean in closer. When uncertain whether they've pleased you, they work harder. When they fear they've lost you, they run after you. This is why you must never chase. The instant you do, you overturn the dynamic. You announce that you need them more than they need you, and from that moment, they will treat you accordingly. Look at rulers, CEOs, generals, those who command loyalty. They never give their time freely. Their attention is scarce, their approval deliberate, their silence more frightening than anger. People bend over backward just to remain in their favor. You can wield the same power. In business, don't sell yourself, make others prove they deserve you. In relationships, don't beg for affection, let others compete for your presence. In every exchange, project this: your time is limited, your attention valuable, your favor earned. When people pursue you, they invest in you. And the more they invest, the more they fear losing you. This is Machiavelli's deeper lesson: scarcity doesn't just raise value, it binds people to you. They protect, obey, even worship, because they cannot imagine your absence. If scarcity empowers, constant availability weakens. Nothing erodes authority faster than being predictable and easy to reach. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more often you're seen, the less you're respected. Availability creates equality, and equality poisons power. A prince too present ceases to feel royal. A commander who mingles too freely becomes a comrade, not a leader. A man who always answers the phone teaches others his time belongs to them. History shows the contrast. True rulers lived behind walls. Their appearances were rare, staged, deliberate. Nobles waited weeks for a single audience. This was no vanity, it was strategy. By rationing access, they magnified their worth. Compare that to the man always present. His words lose weight. His absence isn't noticed. His return excites no one. Even generosity loses value because it is expected, not earned. Worse, constant exposure reveals weakness. Too much access shows the cracks, mistakes, doubts, flaws. Mystery dissolves, and what once inspired awe becomes ordinary. Machiavelli knew, power rests on perception. A leader who appears sparingly controls his image. A leader who makes himself constantly available loses control over how he is perceived. This truth extends far beyond politics. In business, the founder who shows up to every single meeting is treated not like a visionary, but like a staff member. The executive who fires back a reply to every email within minutes is quietly judged as someone with nothing more important to occupy him. In relationships, the man who is always around, always ready, quickly becomes invisible, while the one who is difficult to access naturally draws pursuit. The same law governs every sphere of human interaction. Abundance breeds neglect, rarity sparks desire. When you hand out unlimited access to yourself, you strip away your own value. Regardless of how capable, intelligent, or resourceful you may be, constant presence trains people to see you as ordinary, even replaceable. What feels like loyalty building is, in fact, reputation erosion. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. His counsel to princes was not only to control their deeds, but also to guard their visibility. Those who revealed themselves sparingly appeared busier, weightier, and far more dangerous. By deliberately withholding their presence, they created a void, and power, like nature, always rushes to fill a void. Subjects and rivals alike feared exclusion. They competed for proximity. They treated each appearance, each word, as if it were sacred. If you intend to preserve influence, whether in your career, your circle of friends, or your personal life, you must break the habit of constant availability, of answering every call, of showing up at every opportunity. What feels like strength is in reality the quiet death of authority. Accessibility erodes mystery and hands others power over your time, your energy, and ultimately your worth. The antidote is not arrogance, but discipline. Show up less. Speak less. Offer less. Make your presence noticeable precisely because it is not guaranteed. When you withdraw, the absence should feel suffocating, like air suddenly missing from the room. And when you return, it must feel like a privilege to those allowed near. Power takes two forms, the visible and the invisible. Scarcity crafts the invisible form, the aura of possibility. It is not about possessions, not about speeches, not even about actions. It is about what others imagine you might do, but choose not to. By rationing your presence, you invite speculation. People convince themselves you are occupied with greater matters, whispering with higher allies, plotting moves beyond their sight. The fear of exclusion does more for your authority than any overt display of dominance. This is the true danger and genius of scarcity. It transforms uncertainty into loyalty, and insecurity into obedience. People pursue not because you ordered them to, but because they cannot endure being outside your shadow, uncertain of where you stand. Power is never built by chasing after people. It is built by making them chase after you. Scarcity is not merely a strategy, it is a posture, a way of being. The moment you stop scattering yourself across every person, every opportunity, every demand, your worth begins to rise. When you govern your presence, discipline your time, and measure your words, people stop taking you for granted. They notice your voice when you speak. They notice the emptiness when you are gone. They notice the significance when you choose to reappear. Scarcity flips the balance of dependence. When others realize they need you more than you need them, the entire structure of power shifts. You no longer scramble to prove your worth. They scramble to prove theirs to you. You no longer run toward power, power gravitates toward you. Real scarcity doesn't only protect value, it generates an aura. It enlarges you in the imagination of others. When you are silent, they speculate about your schemes. When you grow distant, they dread the loss of your favor. Every movement becomes loaded with meaning. Every word feels intentional. In their minds, you cease to be an individual and become a presence. That presence is dangerous. Your silence carries weight like a thundercloud. Your absence presses down on a room long after you've left it. Your approval becomes rare, which makes it priceless. People begin to guard your name as though it were their own, defending your reputation in places where you are not even present. Not out of pure loyalty, but out of fear of being shut out. Yet make no mistake, this is not sorcery. It is self-mastery. Anyone can throw their attention around. Only a few can restrain it. Scarcity demands discipline, the strength to resist over-explaining, over-giving, over-appearing. The weak beg to be noticed. The strong make the world feel the weight of their absence. Scarcity has its price. It is not enough to vanish, there must be substance behind the veil. If you are scarce but hollow, sooner or later the illusion breaks. But if you are scarce and formidable, if your talent, your influence, your resources are undeniable, then every pause, every silence, every absence makes your legend grow. This is the essence of Machiavelli's counsel. It is not polite. It is not fair. But it endures, in courts of princes, in boardrooms, in personal ties. The world never crowns the desperate. It elevates the rare. Stop handing out your presence like it costs nothing. Power lives in scarcity. When you vanish, people feel the loss. When you return, they feel the weight. Scarcity turns attention into obsession and respect into fear. If you want to master this art, watch Machiavelli on Power as Design, a playlist where power isn't theory, but strategy. Be rare. Be wanted. Be feared.